All right, well, Democrats caught in more contradictory messaging as they claim to fight for the working class. But their anti-ICE crusade to protect illegal aliens is directly hurting those very people.
If you go back 50, 60 years, what is the fastest period for blue-collar wages rising in the United States of America? It is the time that we are living in right now, thanks to the economic policies of Donald J. Trump. You know what the worst thing for people at the bottom of the income ladder is? It's when you flood the country with millions upon millions of illegal aliens and force our poor Americans to compete for jobs against low-wage foreigners who don't even have the legal right to be here. That is what destroys the wages and the livelihoods of people who are struggling in this country. We want to empower them to live the American dream. That's why we're protecting their jobs, lowering their taxes, and fighting to make their country safe again.
For more, let's bring in Committee to Unleash Prosperity co-founder and former Trump senior economic advisor, Steve Moore. It's not immigration, Steve, we're talking about. It's illegal immigration. And it is a drain and a burden on working Americans. Their children, their education suffers because their schools are swamped with non-English speaking kids. Their budgets of states are blown out because the illegal migrants have to have health care. If you live in California, the budget blowout is because Medicaid there was expanded to cover all illegal immigrants.
Well, the most amazing thing is that in the first 3 months of the Trump presidency, as you guys know, Trump cut the flow of illegal immigration, what was it, by 92%, which is an amazing feat by President Trump and Tom Homan. And so now I think people feel better about the situation. But you're right. I mean, the reason that Joe Biden lost the election was because of high inflation and the flood of illegal immigrants across the country you know, look, I'm very pro-immigration, but they have to come in legally. Biden wanted all these people to come in, and the only explanation I can find is that he wanted these people to vote because they wanted to win the election by bringing in millions of voters.
You know, Steve, it's interesting because even you go back, I mean, you know, former President Obama wrote about this issue like years and years and years ago before he was president, writing the fact that, you know, this influx of low-skilled workers would depress blue-collar wages, would also be a drain on the social welfare safety net as well. So, like, what changed for the left?
You mean, I'm not sure I understand your question. What do you mean, what changed?
So what changed in the dynamics? Like, how did the left go from that, where Obama's making some of the very points that we just heard from J.D. Vance, Vice President J.D. Vance, to now, under Biden, just the open borders, a flood of illegal aliens into the United States, doing the very thing that Obama once warned about years ago before he was president?
Well, that's a great question. I mean, I'm still puzzled to this day by the fact that the Democrats were so out of touch with the American people that they didn't realize how unpopular it was that we had these millions of people coming into and look, we're a generous country. We take more immigrants than any other country in the world. You have to come in the right way. And they did this to their own detriment. In other words, as the anger rose, they still didn't do anything about it. What Trump proved, by the way, and Tom Homan proved, was it wasn't that the Democrats couldn't control the border, it's that they didn't want to control the border. In other words, I really believe they wanted the illegal immigrants to flood in for one reason or another, to create chaos or whatnot. But look, I think the American people believe in the idea that America should be a country of immigrants, and we should continue to be so, but we cannot allow millions of people to come in the wrong way illegally when you've got people who are criminals, you got people who are terrorists, you got people who are drug runners. That just doesn't cut it with the American people. And frankly, shame on Joe Biden and his administration for doing nothing about this problem for 4 years.
Well, they did it for apportionment in Congress and the Electoral College. It's power, voting political capital. But you take it, sorry.
No.
That's a good point.
Jay Powell will address the world at Jackson Hole at that confab, that boondoggle tomorrow, Steve. What are we going to hear? Because more and more, given the jobs market, the kind of revisions, we've had job losses when you take out health care in the last 3 months. So not just cutting a quarter of a point, but half of 1 percentage point in September is what many people are calling for. And I'm not just talking about people who work for President Trump's administration, but also what about Governor Lisa Young, who apparently has committed, allegedly, occupancy fraud on mortgages? Why is she still sitting there?
There's just so much corruption at the Federal Reserve Board. You know, this is by the way, I know nothing about this woman's, the alleged allegations against her, but they sound bad if they're true. But my point is that, you've got a whole institution at the Federal Reserve Board with their $3 billion building that there's no sunlight. There's no transparency. They operate in total secret, like there's some kind of secret chamber. That has to change. Why not? Why should their meetings be in secret? Why can't C-SPAN and Fox News cover what they're doing when they're making their deliberations? Why do they have Why did they have to have 300 PhD economists? Lord knows what those people do. They have a giant budget, it needs to be all out in the open. And Trump should get rid of Powell as soon as he can and put somebody. How about a Larry Kudlow or an Art Laffer or Kevin Warsh, somebody who knows something about monetary policy. But Powell's a lawyer. He doesn't even know economics.
Clearly. Steve Moore, thank you. Good to see you.
Thank you, guys.